Every morning, the global economy generates a staggering volume of data. From overnight market movements to sudden policy shifts, the scale is immediate and overwhelming. This information originates from multiple channels simultaneously. Premium international networks like Bloomberg and Reuters merge with domestic outlets, and institutional data feeds from Bank Negara Malaysia and various global commodity exchanges. These metrics document the physical shifts in global supply chains, resource extraction, and the movement of actual cargo through international ports. Against this high-velocity stream, policymakers, investors, and corporate strategists face severe time constraints. They must process these developments and make high-stakes decisions before the market closes. Skimming standard news headlines provides the facts of an event, but often lacks the institutional-grade depth required to understand the surrounding economic context. In a high-noise market, raw data requires a strict, standardized filtering mechanism to become useful intelligence. MacroMalaysia addresses this through the Economic Rundown. This daily intelligence product distills complex financial events into high-level, actionable summaries. Professionals and investors rely on this synthesis to guide their daily strategic positioning in the market. The report utilizes a rigid analytical framework that requires analysts to balance extreme brevity with technical depth, removing all non-essential information. Bridging the gap between global catalysts and localized impacts requires a carefully engineered operational architecture that translates data into strategy. The reporting process follows a three-part analytical sequence: what, why, and how then. First, the what. The analyst isolates the core factual event, metric shift, or policy decision, presenting the raw development with total clarity. Next, the why identifies the precise underlying catalysts. This involves mapping specific geopolitical tensions, supply chain blockages, or shifting interest rate expectations that drove the metric change. Finally, the how then outlines the forward-looking effects. This projects the cascading impact on capital markets, consumer costs, or impending monetary policy moves. A strict parameter limits each narrative entry to a maximum of 80 to 120 words. This word count constraint, combined with an objective style guide, forces analysts to focus exclusively on critical facts. This methodology ensures that only actionable insights reach the final intelligence dashboard. We can see this methodology applied in the Volume 22 2026 report covering the oil and gas sector. The what metric isolated the stabilization of oil prices near the $91 per barrel mark following a sharp decline. The why identified two conflicting catalysts. One was the ongoing military risk in the Strait of Hormuz, threatening global supply flows. This was balanced by cautious market optimism surrounding U.S.-Iran ceasefire negotiations, which provided a stabilizing counter-effect. The how then ties these factors together, noting that global oil flows remain highly sensitive to whether these diplomatic breakthroughs hold or collapse. Analysts bold all key figures and rates to ensure the text remains rapidly scannable for the reader. This framework transforms a static commodity price update into a dynamic risk assessment. These individual analytical briefs populate a daily intelligence document divided into three distinct sections. Part 1 contains a curated list of 10 to 12 macro briefs covering capital markets, inflation, and commodities like precious metals. Within these sectors, the report covers domestic macro components, tracking how global trends impact the regional agricultural economy, including palm oil production. Part 2 features the foreign exchange dashboard, tracking the Malaysian ringgit's daily performance against major global and regional pairs to evaluate broader macro drivers. Part 3 provides a final domestic anchor with a market wrap-up of Bursa Malaysia as of the 5 p.m. close. This section captures the FBM KLCI closing points, sector heat maps, and total transaction values in billions of ringgit. This three-part flow is designed to progressively funnel vast global trends down into specific, localized domestic market impacts. This structure identifies the causal relationships between international events and local market liquidity. Consistently producing this synthesis requires a 10-hour operational cycle. Analysts begin monitoring at 8 a.m., filtering macro-critical news from verified publishers through 5 p.m. Then, the team pulls definitive closing rates for the Bursa Malaysia Index and Bank Negara currency exchanges. This data feeds into the final drafting sprint from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., where figures are synthesized using the established format. During this final hour, strict editorial standards ensure a neutral tone and adherence to length constraints. This cycle ensures intelligence is reliably timed for critical end-of-day strategy sessions. Behind every metric are the professionals executing this high-pressure synthesis daily. They provide decision-makers with a tool that delivers institutional-grade depth in a scannable format. The report delivers clarity through a rigid operational architecture, transforming raw data into intelligence. This methodology identifies the specific causal links between global catalysts and domestic market liquidity, providing the data-driven foundation required to navigate market shifts. Ultimately, this is the complete MacroMalaysia intelligence methodology.